My top 3 low budget lenses in Fujifilm X mount for starting a photography business. Let me tell you what are my recommendations in this video now. Hi there, my name is Tudor Matescu and welcome to my channel. I really like street photography, and by doing street photography, of course, I inform myself over the YouTube and the internet about street photographers, and I found Kevin Mullins. Kevin Mullins is doing wedding documentary photography, and I really loved that idea. And by doing this street photography for my hobby in time, I was thinking, why not to make like Kevin Mullins wedding photography? So in time I've acquired some lenses, and I want to talk about what I think are the best low budget lenses for starting a photography business, for doing wedding photography, for doing event photography, for doing paid documentary work on a Fujifilm camera. So if you like this content, please subscribe to my channel, hit that like button and that notification bell, leave me a comment, and let's get to the subject. So I decided to acquire some lenses that are good for wedding photography, event photography, paid documentary photography, but also for street photography. So now let's talk about the first lens that I recommend. The first lens that I recommend, it is Viltrox 20mm f1.4. The price, it is amazing, and the results that you get with this lens are amazing results. Of course, you can go for Tokina, that it is a little more pricey, but also at a good price compared to Fujifilm 20mm f1.4. So why Viltrox? Because the AF, it is extraordinarily good. The AF, it is not clunky, it is deadly silent and deadly accurate. It is focusing very fast, and this lens, it is very sharp. Also, it has a beautiful old vintage glass in it that it will render the bokeh in an extremely pleasing way. Yes, you have some problems with this lens. It's flaring, it has some chromatic aberration, and also on the corners, if you shoot this lens at f1.4, f2, you'll get some soft corners. But I've used this lens for documenting my kid's birthday. I've treated their birthday like was an event to see what this lens can do, and I was very satisfied with the results. In printing, I've printed the images. The images are extraordinarily good. I've used Fujifilm with a general color profile that I use for everyday work, for everyday street photography, for everyday documentary photography, for everyday family photography, and maybe I will do a video like this, because I've done a video about black and white film simulation. Check that video, link in the card, and that amazing profile was extraordinary. And my neighbors, when they looked at the pictures, they really like it very much, because the pictures were colorful, were beautiful, the subjects in a small space were very good separated, and so on. So extraordinary results with this 20mm f1.4. And why would you want a 20mm f1.4? Because at weddings you need a wide lens, and this is the most accessible wide lens with a very bright aperture, because again, at weddings and at different events, it is possible to have very bad light. So you need a very good aperture, a bright aperture. Also at weddings and events, there are lots of people there, so you need a lens that it is able to separate the subject from the other people that are out there. I truly recommend this lens. It's an excellent lens to start with. You'll be able with this lens to do group photography, portrait photography, contextual photography, and so on. Kevin Mullins, before using the 80mm f1.4, was using the 20mm f1.4 from Fujifilm. So I truly recommend this lens to get it as a lens that will help you start your photography business. The second lens, and the must-have lens, it is Viltrox 56mm f1.4. a funny thing just happened. These two Viltrox is also alike, that I mistaken the 20C with the 50 when I talked in the previous part of the video. So Viltrox 56 f1.4. Why do you need this lens in wedding photography and even photography? Because you don't want always to be in the face of your paid client. You want to give them some space, and this lens, it is excellent for that. So this lens can be used as a documentary photography when you are stepping back, but also as a portrait lens, of course, and as a detailed lens for good shots. I've used this lens in my studio, and I must tell you that it is amazing for product photography. So you can use this lens for product photography too. Amazing lens. It is extraordinarily sharp from f2. At f2 it is very sharp. At f1.4, my copy, it is not so sharp as the 20mm f1.4 from Viltrox. And I'm really sorry about that, because I feel that I was needing a little more sharpness at that f1.4 from this 56mm from Viltrox. Maybe Tokina, it is a better version, I really don't know, but again, you can use it at f1.4. Bump up the sharpness a little and you'll get extremely good pictures. Of course, this lens has the same problems. Being a leaded glass, a crystal glass like Zeiss old glass, these lenses will flare and will give you some chromatic aberrations. So you really need to use the lens hood and you really need to pay some attention. But for a starting photographer, I don't think this is a problem, and it's not. The clients will not observe that, and after you acquire some more experience and some more clients and you get some more paid jobs, of course you can invest in that 56 f1.2 from Fujifilm, or better 50 f1.0 from Fujifilm. Anyway, this is an extraordinary lens, also good for street photography, for product photography, for detail shots at the weddings, for portrait photography. So truly recommend it. The AF, it is also very good. So you have no problems with just two lenses to cover an entire wedding or an entire event. These are all the lenses that you need to get the job done. But let's say you need a middle lens. Of course, the middle lens, it is the 35mm f1.4 from Fujifilm, or the 33mm f1.4 from Viltrox. This lens from Fujifilm can be found at the same price as a new Viltrox, of course, on the used market. So it really depends on you. I feel that the Viltrox 30mm f1.4, it is a very good lens, like these lenses. It is sharp enough, it has good AF. This doesn't have such a good AF, so it is very hard to decide. But if you have these two Viltrox lenses, I guess you can go with the 33mm f1.4 from Viltrox, because I feel in event photography, in wedding paid photography, you want a lens that will offer you good AF, and this, it doesn't offer you such a good AF. It's okay, I don't say you can't do it, you will do it, but you have some missed shots. I feel Viltrox AF, it is better than this lens, that it is older, but it's a hard decision. In the end, I think it's about the money and the preference and probably the weight. This is very light and it renders the bokeh extraordinarily good. So it really depends on the budget. And why would you want a 50mm lens, equivalent lens on full frame? Because this lens will help you get good portraits, good close-up portraits that have another feeling that a portrait made with a 56mm f1.4, a 85mm equivalent lens on full frame. You also be able to do with this lens all kinds of documentary shots of good composed shots. So this is all the kit that you need to start a paid photography using Fujifilm X cameras. Of course, a recommended body for wedding photography, it is X-T4, X-T3, X Pro 3, X Pro 2 that are having 2 slot cards. But also you can use XS10. And if you want to have more gear on you, to have the ability to do all kinds of shots, let me recommend you again the 80mm f2 lens. This is an extraordinary lens that will help you get those wide shots, those extremely impressive shots that are having some dynamics in it. When you are using this lens to do a close-up portrait or a close-up group shot, you'll get some good dynamics with this 80mm f2. Of course, there are all kinds of combinations that you can use in a wedding kit. You can also use the f2 Fujichrons, but again I feel that it's a better investment in Viltrox f1.4 lenses for paid photography, for starting a photography business with a low budget. That f1.4, it is really special, it is really something. This f1.4, it's helping you render portraits in a special way on all the systems, Micro Four Thirds, APS-C, full frame, and also this f1.4, it's helping you have a lower ISO and a very good shutter speed. So this is why I'm recommending f1.4 lenses. But for wider shots, you can go with an f2 lens. Kevin Mullins also was using the X70 for wider shots. You can also use XF10 for shots like that, but have in mind that you must use that camera with good light. Check my review about XF10, link in the card. So in conclusion, if you want to do wedding photography with low budget lenses, these are my recommendations. And of course you can use any body from Fujifilm if you are just starting out. My preferred method of document an event is implying the use of two Fujifilm body cameras. So I prefer to go with X Pro 3 and let's say X4, X-T4 with a prime lens on each camera. For wedding photography, this is an amazing setup, and this is my recommendation, to use two bodies. And why not use an f2.8 zoom on a single body on Fujifilm? Because that f2.8 will not give you enough depth of field with a standard zoom. And also that f2.8, it's not sufficient for good ISO and for good shutter speed. So if you are at the beginning, the idea it is start with a body and two lenses, and after that buy another body. So you can have one lens on a body and one lens on the other body. So you have a perfect setup for wedding photography. And after having that setup, two bodies and two prime lenses, you can go for the third lens, for the 50mm equivalent lens, the 35mm f1.4 lens. But if you want to start out right now, my recommendations are Viltrox 56mm f1.4 and Viltrox 23mm f1.4 with a Fujifilm camera body from Fujifilm, of course. These lenses are able to help you get the entire event. Check Kevin Mullins' website and YouTube vlogs and you'll see what this man has been able to do with just two lenses, because this is how he's working, and I totally agree with this kind of setups. Two bodies, one prime lens on each body, and of course some other prime lenses if you need some other interesting angles. Thank you for watching this video. Please subscribe to my channel, hit the like button and subscribe to my channel to help me grow, and check my other videos too, where I've talked about Fujifilm camera gear tips and tricks, and I also invite you to watch my 5 best lenses from Fujifilm for street photography, link in the card. Thank you for watching and talk to you soon, and leave me a comment. Bye bye.